There's a certain silence in betrayal that no amount of rage can fill. That morning, as sunlight fractured across my bedroom walls, I realized the world I'd carefully assembled was being dismantled piece by calculated piece. I tore through drawers again, my hands trembling, searching for a passport I already knew was gone. The absence pulsed in the room like a wound, raw and unmistakable. Only hours before, it had been right here, nestled in a folder, marked with the kind of hope you don't admit out loud, not in this family. I'm Evelyn Parker, 21, eldest daughter, raised in the suffocating gentility of Boston's outer edges. The kind of family that polishes silver and expectations until they both gleam. From the start, I was told ambition was ugly on a girl. Humility, they whispered, suits you better, but I read instead of flirted, and I dreamed of Paris while they dreamed of my obedience. Maybe my true sin was refusing to orbit around Emily, my sister, their star. 19 and golden in ways I could never be. Emily was the one they paraded at every church brunch, the girl whose smile needed no apology. I was always the problem to be solved. Evelyn, what are you doing up there? My mother's voice sliced through the house, polite, precise, but cold enough to cut. You lose things when you get like this. I swallowed, feeling anger burn beneath my ribs. She wanted me to believe I was careless, forgetful. It was easier than acknowledging what really lived inside this house. Then Emily appeared, just a shape at the door. But in this family, shadows have sharp edges. Her hair perfect, her smile tight. She toyed with a lock, as if the world itself was hers to untangle. Maybe it's a sign, sis. Maybe you're not meant for the world out there. The words were gentle, the way poison can be. I stared at the invitation on my desk, a full ride, a chance at a life they never wanted me to have. I'd hidden it for months already, knowing how the story would unfold if they found out. I wasn't running away. Not this time. I earned this, I said, voice raw from searching. Why can't you just be happy for me? Emily drifted into my space, her heels ticking off the seconds between us. Oh, I'm always happy for you. It's just, you're so unlucky, aren't you? The prom dress that arrived 2 sizes too small. The research project that vanished before its deadline. Each memory was a bruise freshened by the sound of her voice. We both knew the truth, but she'd never speak it. Evelyn downstairs. Now. My mother's patience wore thin. The game was shifting to the next level. I went slow and deliberate past the photos on the staircase, one child forever glowing, the other always slightly out of focus. The living room was a courtroom, father with his business cold eyes, mother's crucifix gleaming like a warning. Sweetheart, my mother began this scholarship. Are you sure you're thinking clearly? Her kindness was a weapon meant to draw blood without leaving marks. My father leaned in, all authority and calm. This could be a mistake. We're just worried. I felt the coldness in my voice before I heard it. Don't confuse control with love. Across the room, Emily sniffled performance, not pain. You make everything a competition. My mother folded her into an embrace, looking at me with something far sharper than love. You're hurting her again, Evelyn. I let the accusation hang. Not every battle is worth the bruise. Maybe you should pray on it, she said. There it was, the last refuge of people who fear what they cannot shape. I smiled, but it wasn't for them, it was for me. The final turn of the lock, the quiet recognition that I was alone in this room, in this house, and maybe that was what I'd needed all along. With Paris less than 48 hours away, I stood in the wreckage of my family's love, surrounded by words that sounded like care, but felt like confinement. My father's fingers steepled, as if in negotiation, offered one last warning. Sometimes, he said, God has his own ways of telling you, your dreams are dangerous. But the only thing I heard was my own heartbeat, steady and unyielding, refusing to be broken by the story they needed me to live. I almost laughed when Dad delivered his old line again, as if I were still 16 and not the girl who'd already outgrown this gilded cage. He'd said the same thing the night I refused to apply to the college Mom had picked for Emily, her second-hand ambitions pressed into my future as if I were made of pliable clay. This time, Mom tilted her head eyes glossy with an artificial concern so flawless it bordered on art. We're just worried, dear. Europe is far so unfamiliar. No one there to look out for you. She clung to this fiction while Emily, predictably perfect, continued her routine of public piety, always the Parker girl in the front pew, the neighborhood's pride. Emily's eyes flicked toward me, lashes fluttering as she delivered her gentle warning. I just want you to be careful, Evelyn. Paris sounds exciting, but I worry you'll be disappointed. Remember my prom dress, the one that got ruined? Accidents happen. Her tone was soft, but I felt the jab beneath. Like when my research project vanished the day after you borrowed my laptop? I replied, voice even. The silence thickened, sticky with secrets no one dared to name. Evelyn Mom's gasp was theatrical. Don't turn small accidents into accusations. We are family. I almost smiled. Then how do you explain my passport disappearing the same day you all learned about my scholarship? Another act of God. Emily pressed her lips tight, her eyes holding mine, daring me to name her game. We didn't need words. The Parker sisters were experts in Cold Wars. Dad tried to take back control with that lecture voice he'd perfected in boardrooms. You're blowing this out of proportion. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Not every door is meant to open. I met his eyes, felt a quiet resolve fill my chest. It's not blessing, Dad. It's control. And it's fear yours, not mine. Fear that I might want more than this little box you built for me. That landed sharper than intended. Dad's knuckles whitened on the armrest. Mom turned her gaze away. Emily straightened, a queen crowned by her silence. You need time to think, Mom insisted, voice sugar sweet. Stay home this week. Join Emily at the fundraiser. Maybe you'll learn what really matters. I breathed in slow, the air heavy with their expectation. So what you're saying is I should give up my interview because my passport happened to disappear at the perfect moment? Or do you want me to believe this is fate? Their silence answered for them, a verdict as final as a slammed door. I left the room, their stares sticking to my back like thorns. In my room, the exhaustion crashed over me, years of small betrayals crowding the walls. My phone buzzed Noah, the only person who knew the full story. Backup passport secured. Cars coming at 5 a.m. You sure? His message hummed with quiet urgency. I stared at those words, steadied myself. Felt something unbreakable grow inside. More sure than ever. I opened my wardrobe, slid my hand behind a loose panel, and pulled out the backup box, new passport, plane tickets, every document I needed to slip through the cracks of their plans. They could sabotage a lot, but they couldn't outpace the paranoia they taught me to perfect. Outside my window, light flickered from Emily's room, her laughter trailing through glass, probably spinning another tale of my latest downfall. Maybe she even believed her own innocence now. But masks, worn long enough, become a second skin. I messaged Noah, activate Plan Bravo. See you at dawn. On my desk, the scholarship invitation sat untouched, as if daring anyone to try again. I slipped the new passport into my old moss-green backpack, the one they never noticed too plain for their curated world. Another message from Noah. Cover the camera outside your room. Be careful. Emily doesn't quit. I glanced at the red pinprick of the family security camera. The night my passport disappeared, the footage was corrupted. Emily had laughed, told me to update the software. I'd nodded, let her enjoy the performance. Now, I dragged my chair over, taped a strip of black over the lens. Just in case. In this house, trust was always a calculated risk. Back at my desk, I smoothed my hair, powered up my laptop. If they needed a show, I'd give them one. I began typing a draft to the scholarship committee. I regret to inform you that I won't be able to attend the interview. The words hung there unfinished, a decoy for those always watching. In the stillness, I listened to the house breathe, knowing tomorrow everything would change. I left my door ajar, a silent invitation. Sure enough, minutes later, I heard Emily's footsteps, delicate, light, almost rehearsed, as if she wanted to haunt, but not disturb. I didn't turn. I could feel her gaze, sharp as glass, flicking over my shoulder, taking in the carefully staged resignation on my laptop screen. Her voice came all sugar and steam. "Evelyn," she purred, "you're giving up." There was hope and suspicion tangled in her question. I didn't flinch, just exhaled a slow, practiced breath and typed one more line. "I hope to apply again next year if there's still an opportunity." I let my shoulders droop, my eyes hollow out, giving her just enough of a broken silhouette to make the lie believable. "Maybe everyone's right," I said, my tone almost gentle. "Europe is too much. Maybe it's a sign from God I should just accept it." I let the words settle between us, felt her victory fill the room. Emily's lips curved, subtle but triumphant. She nodded, merciful, superior, already picturing how she'd tell this story. Evelyn, the tragic, impulsive dreamer, finally learning her place. She closed my door softly behind her, as if sealing a tomb, and I counted her footsteps as they faded down the stairs. I could imagine the flurry of texts already leaving her phone, little missiles launched at her circle to announce my defeat. I waited until the last sound vanished, then unlocked my phone. In our secret group chat, I typed, "Camera disabled. Family convinced I quit. Plan Bravo is a go." Noah replied before I finished reading 4:45. "Applewood. I'll be there." I let the relief tremble through me. This was the plan, months in the making, every move orchestrated in silence. The new passport, the tickets, the hidden documents, my own private arsenal against the Parker family's quiet war. I sat at my desk and wrote a letter, not a goodbye, not even an explanation, just a line in the sand, a declaration. For those who think they know who I am. I folded it, sealed it, and scrawled the challenge across the envelope. All night, I watched the slice of light from Emily's window, her laughter splitting the silence, sharp, almost desperate. Even at the end, she needed an audience. By 4:30, my nerves hummed like electric wire. I dressed with clinical precision jeans, the khaki jacket, hair pulled back, old green backpack slung over one shoulder, heavy with secrets. Each step was deliberate. I avoided the third stair, the one that always betrayed me, and slipped through the kitchen. The bitter smell of coffee already hung in the air, Mom's ritual oblivious, just minutes away from discovering the emptiness I'd leave behind. I eased open the door, praying the hinge would stay silent, but it betrayed me with a single sharp squeal. For a moment, everything froze. Upstairs, water rushed, the bathroom door opened. I bolted, no more chess moves, just pure instinct. Across the dew-soaked lawn, the gray SUV blinked under the old oak. Noah was waiting, door open, engine low and ready. I dove in. "Go!" I hissed, just as my mother's voice, full name, all authority, howled from the window above, Evelyn Grace Parker. "Stop, right there." The car peeled away, my house receding in the rear view, pristine and poisonous, a cage dissolving into mist. I didn't look back, not once. The second we hit the street, my phone buzzed alive, Mom stern and pleading, Dad clipped and cold. Emily, predictably relentless. You think you've won? You're just setting yourself up for humiliation. I glanced at Noah, who met my smirk with a quiet, steady laugh. He understood what I'd left behind. Ready? He murmured, eyes on the road, but heart in the fight. I texted the group one last time. Plan Bravo activated. 5 minutes. Curtain up. The first rays of dawn broke through the trees as the city waited, still unaware that one girl had just rewritten her own story. The video landed in the Parker family group chat with a silent finality, a digital arrow loosed into the heart of their carefully guarded myths. For a split second, the phone glowed in my hand. Then the playback began. Emily, her face half shadowed in the garage, pouring bleach across my turquoise prom dress the night before the dance. The timestamp was clear, the act even clearer. The next clip was even colder. Emily slipping into my room, nimble fingers extracting my hard drive in the dead of night, erasing months of work and nearly erasing me. I let the footage play, then added a caption sharp as a blade. May God forgive those who preach virtue with bleach-stained hands. Noah caught my eye, the whistle escaping before he could stop himself. Savage, he said, admiration and worry mingled in his tone. Not done yet, I murmured, swiping to the next slide. A photo at the Boston Passport Office official date and stamps the bureaucratic armor that proved my escape had been months in the making. The caption was cold, almost amused, by the way my new passport's been ready for 5 months. This time, no one in the family gets to accidentally lose it. I imagined the reaction on the other end, Mom clutching her chest, gasping, "Oh my heavens!" Dad's jaw grinding tight, glancing at Emily, but too proud to name the sin. And Emily somewhere between fury and performance, slamming her phone before gathering herself for the next act. The group chat lit up in real time. "Evelyn, you're disgracing this family." Dad texted, his usual mix of order and accusation. "God is watching you." Mom piled on, retreating to scripture as if it could plug the holes in her story. Emily's reply was different, short-clipped raider. A warning or a threat? I smiled. No, Emily, not radar. Just truth. It was never about hiding. Not anymore. I turned to Noah. "You got the live stream ready?" He nodded, handing me his phone. "Facebook, YouTube, even your mom's church group, they're all watching." The sunrise outside barely touched the anxiety thrumming through my veins, but I steadied my breath, adjusted my hair, and met the camera with a level stare. "Good morning, this is Evelyn Parker. Since my family's so concerned about our reputation, let's clear a few things up together." I started scrolling photos of science fairs, scholarship certificates, state debate trophies, every forgotten win that never made it to the Parker family wall. Success doesn't always come wrapped in white dresses and practiced smiles, I said, voice steady. Someone's tried to drown me for years, but I learned how to swim. The comments on the live stream sparked and popped. "Is this real? She's the one who deserves the spotlight. That church sure did love Emily Parker." Noah tapped my arm. "We gotta move. Airport's close." I ended the stream with one last line, letting it ring. "I'm going to Paris. Not to run, but to live. Thank you for the lessons." The car pulled out, leaving the echo of calls and messages behind my mother's frantic demands, my father's icy ultimatums. Emily's venom thinly disguised as concern. None of them mattered now. As we merged onto the highway, Noah shot me a quick look, both caution and pride in his eyes. "They won't give up, you know." I let my head rest against the window, the sunrise slicing gold through the fog. "That's fine," I murmured, voice low, "as long as they know I won't stand still for them anymore." Behind us, the White House at 27 Applewood erupted, doors slamming, voices climbing, the Parker legend crumbling under the weight of its own secrets. I could see it all without turning back. Emily would storm the balcony, phone glued to her hand, desperate to regain control of the narrative. Mom would unravel, blaming everything on that girl, the one who never quite fit. Dad would order erase, tighten his grip on a family already lost. But this time, I was ahead. My phone buzzed, a flood of notifications as predicted. I opened the family chat, scanning the desperate pleas and commands. Mom, Evelyn Grace Parker, you come back home immediately. Dad, your actions are shameful. Come home now so we can talk. But the sun was rising. Paris was waiting, and for the first time, I didn't owe them a reply. Emily, you think you're so smart you'll regret this. The message flashed sharp and brittle, then faded as I pressed the group icon and blocked her, severing the last thread of their control. I imagined the panic swelling in their house, Mom's frantic pacing, Dad's orders barked across the living room, Emily's restless hands flitting between phone and facade. I'm guessing they're panicking, Noah said, amusement threading his voice. Good. Let them taste that flavor for once. My words felt oddly weightless, my eyes on the horizon, the road unspooling ahead 20 minutes from the airport. And already I was somewhere else. The Parker family drama, the silent theater that ruled my life, was finally collapsing. But I stayed careful even now. Traffic cameras, Noah murmured, keeping his speed-measured hands calm on the wheel. If they try to twist this, say you ran away, we'll need proof. I unzipped my backpack and pulled out the clear folder: new passport, ticket stub, scholarship letter, even baggage receipts. Every move accounted for, every exit planned. They've got nothing to cling to Noah. They're just flailing now. Outside, the Boston suburbs drifted by gray and soft in the morning mist, as if the world itself was helping me erase the old story. I thought about all the ways they'd tried to shape me. Dad, with his warnings about knowing your place. Mom's tired mantra, a smart woman stays in the background. Emily never needed to say a word. Her smile was enough to tilt every scale, to cast me as the difficult, ungrateful daughter. But this morning, I wasn't that girl anymore. Noah pulled into the airport lot and killed the engine, looking at me, not with doubt, but with something gentler respect. Last step. You sure? I met his gaze, feeling the answer settle in my bones. I'm sure. We walked into the terminal, bathed in warm yellow light, the din of strangers and possibility washing over me. Here no one knew the Parker script. I was just another traveler, my dreams cradled in a single word: Paris. My phone buzzed again, Emily's final attempt. You won't get far. Don't forget who stands behind that church door every Sunday. I blocked her too. Mom always said family can never be cut off. She was wrong. Some ties are better broken. At security, Noah helped lift my luggage, eyes lingering just a second longer, like an older brother who wanted to see me safe all the way through. You did it, Evelyn. This is your walk. He offered his hand, and I squeezed it silent, because he already knew that thank you was just the surface of what I felt. Stepping through security, I felt the ropes fall away, one foot in front of the other, each step a quiet rebellion. I didn't look back. Not for Emily, not for any of them. I'd spent too long making myself small for their comfort, letting their approval define my worth. Today, I chose my own story. Paris wasn't an escape. It was a beginning. The loudspeaker crackled, "Passengers on flight 1537 to Paris, please proceed to gate 14. I gripped my ticket and walked straight ahead into the world I chose. The moment the plane's wheels touched down at Charles de Gaulle, I was breathless with freedom, crushed and exalted by it. Paris welcomed me in a hush, and for the first time, I was unburdened by their gaze, their names, their rules. At the Global Policy Institute, beneath the ivy and stone, I became just another unfamiliar name, no longer the difficult daughter or the one who needed to be controlled. Here, only merit mattered, and I had that in spades. The first seminar was on the power of digital activism. I listened, recognizing my own story woven through the topic. When the host called my name, Evelyn Parker, candidate from Boston, I walked to the stage, my heartbeat the only thing louder than my footsteps. I didn't open with statistics. I started with the truth that finally belonged to me. I grew up in a family where silence was a virtue, where success only mattered if it wore the right face. But the digital world, I said, voice steady and strong, taught me that anyone can reclaim their narrative if they're willing to speak. No one can silence you when you hold the microphone yourself. In the front row, ambassadors and diplomats traded glances, some wary, some strangely moved, as if these truths had always hung in the air, too dangerous to speak aloud. I went on, weaving the arc of my research, how social movements are born not just from streets and squares, but from the swirl of hashtags and digital voices, from Me Too to global uprisings, from anonymous rage to sweeping change. Still, the heart of it was my own story, a lesson written in bruises you can't see. I spoke of how families can polish their control until it shines, how love can masquerade as duty, how the people meant to shield you can sometimes be the ones who suffocate your dreams most gently. When I finished, a silence pressed itself over the room, charged electric dangerous, before applause rose in crashing waves, the force of it leaving me unsteady in the best possible way. I had struck a nerve. After the seminar, the crowd changed shape, reporters clustering with notebooks, cameras hungry for the details behind the research. They didn't just want my analysis, they wanted the story of the girl who escaped a gilded cage and refused to play her assigned part. Headlines followed in rapid succession. Evelyn Parker, from Forgotten Daughter to Voice of a Generation. Within 48 hours, the shadows my family had cast for years burned away in the spotlight. Former neighbors, alumni, even church members reached out to confirm what the world now saw, that my achievements had been buried, my name scrubbed from family narratives while Emily shone in every spotlight. Emily didn't wait long. She went live with a 5-minute video weeping, insisting I'd invented everything, that she'd only ever tried to protect our unity. But this time, the script had changed. The comments turned on her relentless. If you're so innocent, who ruined the prom dress, care to explain the garage video? Did you fake the scholarship too? Within hours, her video disappeared. Her accounts followed scrubbed of history, as if deleting evidence could undo reality. The final blow landed when the church, once the stage for all their virtue, quietly announced Emily's suspension as youth pastor for ethical concerns. For once, their world shrank. I was invited to interview on international television, no longer as the troublesome daughter, but as someone the world wanted to hear. The host leaned in. Evelyn, why do you think your story resonates with so many? I looked directly into the camera, refusing to shrink. Because everyone has an Emily in their life. Everyone has been silenced for someone else's comfort. But when you speak the truth, you don't have to shout. It just needs to be clear. The interview went viral. Suddenly, I was called the voice of the forgotten children, the Parker name once. Armor now, just a shadow. My parents didn't issue statements. They simply disappeared with nothing left to twist, nowhere left to hide. I didn't need revenge. The truth was already at work. 3 weeks after Paris invitations poured in emails I once believed were for other people's children, the European Parliament requested my analysis on digital activism. The subject line alone made my hands tremble. The Global Young Leaders Program named me North America Regional Ambassador, a seat previously reserved for those with old money and Ivy League blood. A message from Noah Funny, how the forgotten daughter turned out to be the ace, huh? I smiled, a slow, certain satisfaction blooming where all the old wounds used to be. Then the White House called. Me, once exiled to the far end of a dinner table, now asked to address policymakers as a guest speaker. All the while, the Parker family's world unraveled. Emmanuel Church released a statement suspending all collaborations with my mother and Emily for ethical transparency, code for banishment. The same people who once praised my father now crossed the street to avoid his eyes. My mother, once so proud of her role as the long-suffering matron, no longer showed her face in public. Emily tried briefly to resurrect her brand streaming live telling her side. But the world had seen the garage video, and this time, the Golden Girl was forced to stand in the glare of her own truth. Comment after comment demanded accountability. Time to take responsibility. Emily, your sister's success is in your failure. Own up. After 3 more deleted videos and 2 vanished comment sections, Emily uploaded one last message. But this time, there were no crocodile tears, only the bare, shattering silence of someone who finally ran out of stories to tell. Emily's face appeared on screen, stripped bare, no makeup, no pink filters, just a paleness that belonged to real remorse. "Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Parker," she said quietly. "Today, I'm not making excuses. I'm not defending myself." She drew in a breath, her eyes never leaving the camera, and for the first time, she didn't blink or turn away. "I was wrong. I was jealous of my sister. Instead of trying to be better, I tried to sabotage her. I was afraid that if Evelyn was recognized, all the praise I'd been given would vanish." Her head bowed, voice a whisper. "I'm sorry, Evelyn. Not for what you said on stage, but for every time you stayed silent. I deliberately stepped on you." The video spread, but this time, the world met her with a strange, even-handed grace. "Owning your mistakes is the first step. Good luck." No one's perfect, but it takes courage to admit you're wrong. The comments rolled in, not as condemnation, but as a sort of collective sigh, the release that comes when secrets finally see daylight. I watched the whole clip not with bitterness or triumph, but a quiet sense of relief. Forgiveness was still a distant country, but I no longer needed hatred to anchor me. My phone buzzed with a new notification. The Global Initiative nominated me for the 2025 Emerging Young Leader Award. Noah's message followed as simple as it was true. "You've already won. Not because you beat them, Evelyn, but because you outgrew them." I looked out the window at the sprawl of Paris, the city lit gold across its ancient rooftops. The Parker family always believed I would remain a shadow, a daughter who knew her place, who would shrink herself small enough to fit the mold they'd poured. But they were wrong. Now forced to watch my story move through the world, they had to learn the more you try to silence a voice, the louder it eventually becomes. That morning, just after my article, "Freeing Your Worth" from the family cage was published on Global Voices, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. This time, it wasn't guilt or veiled threats from my parents. It was messages from strangers. Young people finding a piece of their own struggle in my journey. "I'm Lily, 22. My family called me the failed child. Your story gave me the courage to apply to my dream school even when my mom said I should stop daydreaming." Every message was another story, another life shaped and shadowed by someone else's expectation. I realized then I wasn't an exception. I was one of many, so I couldn't stop at my own escape. That's how Unseen Voices was born, a platform for every young person whose family told them to shrink, whose ambitions were treated like a threat. It began with small workshops in Paris, but within 3 months, the project had grown university clubs in Europe, then the US, Asia, Africa. Every week, I received letters and emails, boys shamed for not following in their father's footsteps, girls dismissed for refusing to be quiet. I didn't just listen. I helped them craft their own new beginnings. One June evening, after a keynote at the United Nations Youth Forum, my assistant handed me an envelope. The sender, Linda Parker. The handwriting, achingly familiar. Inside a note, "We didn't understand you, but that's no longer a reason to keep you in that cage. I hope one day we can look at each other honestly without playing roles." I folded the note carefully, tucking it into the drawer, where I kept all the reminders, not just of pain, but of the stories that had found their own way out of the dark. Forgiveness is a choice, I thought. Accepting that I no longer needed their approval, That was the only freedom that mattered. When I took the stage at the Global Women in Leadership Conference to speak about turning underestimation into fuel, I didn't feel exposed. There were no Parker eyes judging me from the front row. This time, I looked out and saw only faces ready to listen no longer, because they had to, but because my story had become their mirror, their hope, and their proof that the voice of the black sheep could become a rallying call for everyone left unheard. They once called me a failure, a rebel, the black sheep, but they forgot that the black sheep isn't always lost. Sometimes it's simply the one bold enough to carve a path no one else dares to take. When the black sheep keeps moving, determined, it becomes the one that leads the whole flock out of old, suffocating comfort zones. As I finished speaking, the audience rose, their ovation thunderous and raw. In that light, I realized my existence no longer hinged on their old perceptions. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about exposing anyone anymore. My story had grown bigger than me. It had become a symbol for every person ever sidelined, silenced, or shadowed for refusing to fit the family mold. Black sheep. Success wasn't a label, it was a mirror. A reminder that true worth is never something handed down by those who grant permission, it's claimed by daring to stand even if you're standing alone. The auditorium lights softened the stage caught in the signature red glow. My name shone on the giant screen. From black sheep to changemaker. I moved to the center, my steps quiet and unshaken, not because I'd grown used to attention, but because I finally understood I was speaking for millions whose dreams had been snuffed out behind closed doors. I grew up in a family where obedience was the highest virtue. I began, my voice steady and clear, stripped of bitterness, just truth. They taught me to bow to what they called love, but that love had limits and rules, conditions and control. Hundreds of faces reflected back some intent, some haunted, each one searching for themselves in my words. What they never realized, I continued, is the harder you try to clip someone's wings, the more determined they become to fly farther, stronger. I spoke of Paris, of the first presentation, of how my story had traveled beyond my wildest imaginings, not because it was special, but because so many have felt those invisible cages. We're taught to be grateful to family, no questions asked, but that doesn't mean we must accept being diminished or manipulated in the name of love. The applause rang out again, sharp, certain. I looked straight into the camera, knowing millions were watching. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who see you, cherish you, and lift you up even when you take a path different from theirs. I let the silence linger, a quiet rebellion. I used to think revenge meant making those who hurt me regret it. But I learned the sweetest revenge is simply living fully, bravely, and on your own terms. Success is when you stop letting the past dictate your future. The second ovation was different. This was the sound of people who had seen themselves in a stranger's words, a sound that vibrated in the bones. Backstage, Noah was waiting, my usual coffee in hand. He didn't say much, just handed it over, nodded, and I felt the full weight of what had changed between then and now. My phone buzzed with a new message from Emily. You were right. Family isn't a cage. I'm trying to learn how to be part of something real, not just a shadow. Thank you for not waiting for me to change before you started living. I read it twice, then tucked the phone away, smiling. Forgiveness doesn't come all at once, but I knew finally I'd broken the loop. This wasn't about fighting the Parker family anymore. The story had become bigger, a rallying cry for everyone who'd ever been called too different, too much, too dreamy. As I left the stage, a cluster of unseen voices, students, waited nervous and brave. Evelyn, "You're the reason we dared to stand here," said a brown-haired girl, her voice trembling with hope. "I wasn't a superhero. I was just someone who'd learned to walk through fear and had found freedom on the other side. Now they were taking their first steps too. This journey wouldn't end with a TED Talk or an award. Every day somewhere, another child would be told to shrink for someone else's comfort. But if even one dares to stand, the chain starts to break link by link. I'd keep holding the pliers not to prove anything, but because I owed myself a free life. That evening, Paris shone gold. I walked forward, heart unburdened, no longer the forgotten daughter, but simply someone who knew her own worth. I stepped into the light, and this time, it wasn't anyone else's shadow. It was mine. Evelyn's story isn't just about breaking free from family control. It's a reminder that true success is about living by your own values, not proving anyone wrong. In every generation, there are young people suffocating in cages built by others' expectations. But the courage to step out, to fail, to write your own story, that's the key to freedom. Evelyn has become a symbol for all who dare to be different. What about you? What do you see in her journey? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more stories that speak to the heart. Stories of family freedom and finding your own way.